And I know you've got a very juicy statistic about this one.
Yeah, so I was doing a quick bit of look at the win rate that we had from last year for Knight Syndra. He has a 91% win rate over 21 games on this pick. So it's a bit understandable why they might go for this, and it very much fits the style of top esports as well. Knight very much likes these more lane bully, long range mid laners, so he can try and set up the plays, but also try and force the opponent to engage, and then that gives the opportunity for top esports to try and outplay that engage. Use the skill that's on this roster. Okay.
Yeah, and it's also very safe on the blind pick. We have our bot lanes locked in here, Dagda. Obviously, Aphelios Thresh, you know, pretty stock standard, whatever. Yeah. Don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the other side of the board, because we got Rell Samira for top esports.
So I like Rell and Samira together. So as a duo, they work very well in setting each other up. Obviously, you get a huge amount of CC coming through from Rell, which is fantastic for Samira with knockups and how she's able to feed off of getting into these close quarter fights. And Samira shines when she's got that, like, everyone grouped up, she can dive in, she has a lot of support, and you get that support in the form of extra armor and magic resist coming from the Rell. It just feels really, really good for Samira. However, I hate Rell into Thresh. You don't get to do anything. As this Rell, you try and go in aggressive, like go in with your big old dunk, flay. You try to run at them, flay. Maybe a box. Everything just doesn't work in this matchup. So in theory, I like this combo, but specifically into Thresh, it makes it really difficult to operate as Rell. So I'm curious to see how JackeyLove and Zhuo try and work around this when it comes into both the early laning phase and those team fights.
Well, Dagda, for better or for worse, Zhuo has not let anything else stop him being aggressive in the past, so we'll see if the Rell is the answer for them. We're heading into the second ban phase, so let's just quickly catch up here. Sejuani banned away from Karsa. We've seen Sejuani as kind of a fringe pick in the meta, and Karsa obviously very good on these more supportive junglers, so I can understand that. Got a Gangplank banned away. Renekton as the answer, as obviously Gangplank has a good matchup into that Renekton. And then top esports with one ban remaining.
And this is actually something really interesting about Karsa, is that he's pretty much always left into this second pick phase when it comes towards his jungler. And it's why we've seen him go a little bit more off meta, where we're seeing like the Sejuani, the Lee Sin, the Hecarim. It's because he often absorbs a lot of these jungle bans both in phase 1 and phase 2 from the opponent. But he has such a depth of champion pool. Like, we've seen him bring out so many unique picks over the years that it doesn't really phase him too much. And even I've been checking his solo queue records, he's been playing like a heap of Gragas jungle, even bringing in some more of these flex picks. So expect him to still be able to bring out something unique here. And when you're in towards something like the Graves, unfortunately a lot of those AP junglers are gone, so maybe he does go back towards the Gragas.
It's very possible. Yeah, the Gragas locked in here for Karsa. This is a Karsa classic of old. People that know Karsa from, you know, international tournaments from years gone by, from the LMS, for example, they'll know about his Gragas jungle. This is something he's been playing for years, and he's incredibly proficient on. Over to the other side with LGD. Just going to lock in Ornn to round out our draft with a Gnar versus Ornn top lane.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously 369 will have a pretty nice advantage up here in the top side of the map. You can get that early shove, and the biggest thing is trying to use that hop to avoid the CC lockdown from the Ornn. And there is also the potential here with the CC chain that can come in from Karsa, and also the damage that can come through from that early poke, that you could look for an early dive up towards Cult in this top side of the map. So Cult will need to be wary that he is trying to clear out these waves as much as possible and not allowing himself to get dove on that level 3 or in that third wave crash. But he should be reasonably okay to try and remove some of these minions with the likes of his Q and his W.
One of the interesting things about the draft as well is when we look towards Kramer, when we had a look through his stats from last year, his second most played champion was Aphelios. It's back in the meta once again. Kramer's had plenty of practice on this pick. And when we set up how this guy likes to play, he wants to be on the opposite side of the map, alone, farming up and getting tower plates. Who's amazing at farming up and getting tower plates? It's Aphelios. This is the perfect pick for Kramer. He's going to be well and truly within his comfort zone down in that bottom side.
100%. And usually when we see the likes of the Aphelios picked up, they tend not to like roam off towards these early Rift Heralds. And as you said, just sit there, farm it up, get some of these turret plates and try and trade cross map for that play. And I think when you are specifically against the Rell and the Samira, if you actually have chance to leave that bottom lane, you're sitting duck as Kramer. So you pretty much need chance to be joined at the hip with this Aphelios, making sure that he's safe, which should give early pressure over towards top esports if they want to go for these early Rift Heralds and look to use both the mid lane and the top lane winning matchups that they have to pick up the Rift Herald off of karsa.
Well, we've got a Rell in the bottom side of the map, Dagda, alongside a Samira. And I feel like, you know, when they were creating these champions behind the scenes, obviously the champion development overlaps a good chunk. I feel like they must have known that this was an inevitable bot lane 2v2. Rell has the CC to set up Samira's passive. They both want to all in a ton. I feel like this is a match made in heaven, and top esports, hopefully, are going to show us how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing if they can. I'm just not convinced right now. The biggest issue for Zhuo is like trying to get that Ferromancy to work, where you either like, as you try to jump in, again, you can get flayed away. If you try to go in with the mount up, it's easy to slow you down and not allow you to get that auto attack. You will be able to get a decent amount of poke off with the Q, the Shattering Strike in lane, which will be good, but I mean, when you're paired with a Samira, you want to be using the early lane bully pressure that Samira offers, rather than just, hey, I'm going to poke and prod you a little bit.
I will say that all in is pretty great, though. If they can play around that flay that you mentioned before, a lot of this lane is going to rely not necessarily on how top esports engage, more on how LGD disengage from the play. You've got the Lantern if Kramer's out of position, and you've got the flay if Chance is the one stepping forwards. The question will be, how well can that go? And also, if they ever get that 2v2 opportunity, because let's bear in mind, Kramer and Chance, this is not a bot lane duo that you expect to try and find a 2v2. They're generally speaking going to be chilling in that bot side and sort of trying to farm up. karsa, though, is on Gragas. This is a very proactive jungler. Do you think with this draft, there's a chance that he changes his mind and tries to set up JackeyLove? Because let's bear in mind, JackeyLove had kind of insane stats this year so far, even though the win-loss record is really bad for top esports. They're in 10th place. They're 1 and 2 right now on the standings. JackeyLove is still massively ahead every single game with a gold difference of 15 of 800 gold. That constitutes 2/3 of top esports total gold difference at 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane how good JackeyLove has been. And this has been the story of this bottom side of the map, with Zhuo coming in and lending itself towards this super early game pressure. This is where JackeyLove has thrived, and now he's got the support that can back him up in his endeavors. And this is just exactly what top esports wanted. I mean, the story of top esports has been, hey, let's just play this Trident style, super strong lanes that just kick your butt the entire way, and then we come into the mid game with this really big gold lead off of just lane advantages. And once again, you can even see it in the champions that they picked here, the Rell and the Samira, lane bully style champions that are looking to get up and personal and get in your face.
karsa has the opportunity to play around that if he so chooses, but historically, what we've seen from this team is that karsa likes to focus towards those solo lanes. As we said up before, that top lane, generally speaking, is a big point of focus. We'll see Knight leaving the mid lane to move up there as well and try and set up some plays. Colt, though, he's no stranger to the weak side, Dagda. Like, especially when he's on this Ornn. We've seen it last year when it was him and Lies, the two top laners on the matchup. Quite often, they would have to just weather the storm on that side of the map.
But that's the interesting thing. It's the cult of last year, yeah, did play a little bit of this weak side, but certainly the cult of this year is getting much more attention, much more help. I mean, as we said, high counter pick rate, and he's got the third highest CS differentiation of 15 for a top laner. Like, he's actually become a bit of a lane bully, but just curious to see what happens here. It looks like karsa sitting up towards this top side, and he's been trying to just keep Koi from interacting with this top side and allowed 369 to shove this wave and poke underneath the tower.
He's not looking to interact with the top side. He's looking to interact with karsa specifically, trying to find the 1v1 in the brush here. His Uniboy's actually moving up. Spotted on the Scuttle Crab, so they can't actually do anything with that one, but information gathered as Quay moves back towards his own half of the map. You'd expect him to possibly reset here, because, oh no, his chickens have just come up, so he's going to be able to continue the farm fest that is playing Graves. I do want to look quickly at... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it's super interesting to see the way that this jungle matchup is working, though, because both junglers went for this... oh, hang on, chance mid? No, we'll be fine. Both junglers went for the full clear. Now, traditionally, on the likes of a Gragas, you want to be utilizing that level 3 gank, so we often see, like, maybe a one-side clear into buff into a top-side gank, or a reset to get these early Predator boots. That's not the way Karsa plays, though. Karsa is more about moving into the jungle, getting vision control, making sure that he can keep his laners safe rather than ganking and enabling the laners. So you see there where Karsa, instead of going for that early reset and picking up the early Predator boots, instead goes in, steals away the Krugs, gets a ward down, so then 369 is able to push this Ornn underneath the tower and let the range advantage do the work, where he can poke and prod away at Cult. And that's the big difference here when you look at Karsa's jungling style versus what you'd typically expect from a Gragas pick.
So my question then, Dagda, is what's the next move for Top Esports? If they can get all of this off, if they can make sure that 369 is able to bully the lane and... Hang on, we've got Cult just going to ult the wave hit and try it. Oh, 369. Well, you know what? There was an attempt. You get a silver star for that one, 369. I like that you pressed your buttons. That was very good. You clearly know where your keyboard is. Maybe just find where your mouse is as well, and that could be a match made in heaven.
I mean, it does sometimes work better if you can use both the mouse and the keyboard. I've heard trackpad can be a little bit difficult to make work, so I think mouse is definitely optimal.
Who was the player that always used to play with the trackball mouse? Who was that?
Oh,
yeah.
It was an LEC player. I thought it was LEC, was it? I don't know. I mean, that's an old school reference, to be honest. I thought you were going to go with...
If anyone remembers who that player was, please, like, tweet at us or something, because that is going to bug me for the rest of the day if I don't play.
I thought you were going with Knight, because Knight's the golden left hand, because he plays with reverse keyboard and mouse setup. I thought that's where you're going with that. But,
I could have. That would have been a good decision. Knight has actually stopped doing that, by the way. He's no longer crosses the arms, unfortunately. He's obviously still left-handed. I don't think that's changeable. Here we go. Knock up, knock back, and knock everything, because Cult has his flash available, but no way out. Easy first blood for Karsa.
Yeah, beautifully played by Karsa, and that's the beautiful pressure you can get with this Gragas nice and early. Those Predator brutes get you into lane so effectively. Cult had already been whittled down slowly but surely by this Gnar, and you can see again, this was the top lane that we were expecting, where we're going to get a lot of pressure. 369 tends to get a lot of help from Karsa in these early stages, and he's already got a near 15 CS lead plus that assist now. He's going to be very quickly working up towards that. I was going to say Gore Drinker, but I'm actually curious to see what way he decides to play this. He could actually go into a full side lane split push build and go towards something like the Stride Breaker instead here, especially now that he's gone to Fleet Footwork, which is definitely more of a lane orientated role.
Chance is in big trouble here. He's already so low on HP, and Karsa's arriving on the scene as JackeyLove finds his first kill of the game. The knock up onto Kramer turns it into a double, and the kill lane is officially online.
And they managed it. I was so curious as to whether you'd have Chance being able to keep them safe, get them away, but just once that combo lands, there's no escape from you. Even with the cleanse in that lane, you can see double kill going across, and it looks like the doctor's orders of Kramer coming into this roster aren't keeping anyone on Top Esports away.
Yeah, and let's talk about Karsa here for a second, because everything this man touches turns to gold for now. Might as well be called King Midas at this stage, because he went to the top lane. Easy kill on Cult. Goes to the bottom lane. They kill both of the bottom laners. Just beautiful stuff on the Gragas.
Yeah, and this is a big mistake from Chance. Like, you do not want to go aggressive ever in this lane. And the fact that he'd already used the hook, he then has to use the flay defensively as well, because he's realized, oh crap, I've made a mistake here. Just gives free reign in towards Top Esports to go for that bot lane play. Happened that Karsa was in the area as well, so unfortunately big mistake from Chance, which is now going to cause a lot of issues for that bottom side for LGD, especially when you look at JackeyLove picking up both kills. He's going to be very accelerated towards this Immortal Shield bow, and in the team fights where JackeyLove is going to be that main source of damage and wants to be ahead, because, well, Samira works beautifully when ahead. He's now got exactly what he wants.
I thought for a second we were going to see a dive. I could see the dots on the minimap moving towards that bottom lane, that they decide to back away. And I want to point something else out as well, Dagda, that kind of compounds on that mistake from Chance, was that Chance was level 5. Everyone else in the lane was already level 6. That is not the moment to go aggressive. Random tip for everyone at home, if you're a level down on everyone and they've got their ults, you probably don't want to fight them right now.
Yeah, and we already said this is a defensive setup from LGD's bot lane. You've got the late game scaling the Aphelios. You've got the Thresh to keep them safe both with the Lantern, but also to stop the disengage from top esports. There is no reason for you to go aggressive in this lane. The Samira not coming out with a lead is actually a win for LGD's side, because if a Samira starts to fall behind, because she has to get up so close in personal and team fights, she can turn into pretty much useless at that point. However, now she's so far ahead that that's not going to be an issue for JackeyLove at all. He should have a field day in these fights, especially when you look at the amount of CC and setup that he's going to have coming into these brawls.
Well, as 369 shoves this wave underneath the tower, we can kind of take stock of where we're at in the game, because we said that karsa was going to focus on that top side, that they were going to try and find a lead. Same kind of story for LGD. Well, Quay hasn't really been trying to influence the lanes at all. He's been just trying to counter jungle every time that karsa makes a gank, but he's only 2 camps up right now. Whereas karsa, as I said before, every lane he's touched has turned to gold. They got the kill on the top side of the map. JackeyLove 2-0 has just finished that shield bow off as well. And top esports, this is a team that thrives off of skirmishing. We talk about it time and time again. They're winning their lanes. They're setting themselves up to win those mid-game skirmishes.
The big thing about going back to your point on Quay, though, what he's been doing is getting these objectives, right? He's already got a dragon for himself. You can see the Rift Herald sitting in his inventory. So at least when we look at the ability for top esports to snowball these leads, well, look, you don't need to fight for these early dragons. Hang on, top side.
369 flashes out of the play. I think he should be fine with this one, especially since he's about to turn Mega Gnar. He actually could 1v1 the Graves. In goes Zhuo, gets the knock up onto Kraber, just stands on top of the mountain and puts about 1 million wards down as well. Kraber, he wanted the ticket out of there, but his ticket was expired.
Oh, this is so sad. Every time Kramer's died, he still has Flash and Cleanse. Like, he keeps expecting Chance to be able to save him, and you can see there, Chance flashes forward to toss the Lantern back. It's like, we'll be safe. We'll save the summoner spells. It ain't happening. Top esports are all over this bot lane, and it's just gone from bad to worse. Again, though, you're kind of starting to see how top esports are looking to snowball these games. Turret plates into Samira, fantastic. They're now starting to rack up these dragons. And at least, as we said before we got interrupted, that Koi had got that Rift Herald in the favor. Maybe that can slow it. But when karsa's on fire like this, there ain't no stopping him.
Karsa on this classic pick as well. It feels so good to see Karsa not only on form, but on one of these picks that we know him so well for, that he's played so much over the years, and clearly he's still got it. Gragas coming back into the meta a little bit, and this is not typically how we've seen Gragas. Gragas has been a big top lane pick. It's been a big support pick, but jungle hasn't really been it. As this Herald will get the charge in, you expect... in fact, all of the gold goes to Quay. Colt doesn't get any of it there.
Yeah, I was actually looking up karsa's builds when we were coming into this, because he's been playing a lot of this Gragas in solo queue. He typically does go the Night Stalker build, so interesting to see him opt instead towards the Rocket Belt. And I think basically what he's saying here is, look, we basically get a lot of the same damage, but at least the utility that comes from the Rocket Belt is going to do a lot more. But bot side, again, karsa showing his face.
Here. Yeah, JackeyLove will be able to grab this tower plate at very least. But there's going to be more happening, because Knight's here as well. They've got to wait for the next minion wave, potentially, as Quay dodges a stun. JackeyLove just fancy footwork down in this bottom side. He's got his dancing shoes on, because every skill shot is going wide right now. Let's bear in mind, this is an aggressive player.
This is what I love about JackeyLove, though. Always playing right on the edge of his limits. And really, that's what puts the opponent under so much pressure, is that you can never just go, oh, yeah, well, you know, he's by himself. Or, well, you don't know if he's by himself, but you never know just how well he can outplay. You've seen in their last series where he got that 1v4 triple kill. Sorry, not the last series. This is the series against Row, I believe.
Row's in trouble here, and the recall finished, but... looks like he'll get away, Quay, not trying to force that one. Uniboy was not in a position to rotate down. But yeah, the 1v4 triple kill that he got just outside the Baron buff was that was something to behold. If you missed it, go check out the top 5. JackeyLove, you know, suboptimal performance at the World Championship. I think it's fair to say. I don't think anyone would I don't think JackeyLove would disagree with that statement. But since that point, coming back in, as we showed his stats earlier, even with this low win record for top esports, JackeyLove individually still looks exceptional so far this season. As I say that, he does get hooked in this bottom side. They don't have the damage to finish him off.
Yeah, you can also see Koi is hovering here. Ooh, ultimate thrown under the tower. They're just trying to force them back. All they want to do is get this tower for themselves.
Okay, I see. Okay, I was getting ready to flame Kramer there. You can see Kramer's face. He's deadpan as always. Kramer is not the kind of player that you get much emotion from on the player cam. Knight and Uniboy in a 1v1 right here as Ignite is ticking, and a bonus one in the pocket for Uniboy, but doesn't go for the chase right here. Bear in mind, that unleashed power is still available for Knight. Always makes it dangerous for Zoe to 1v1.
Going back to this bottom side, though, big win for LGD getting that first tower, especially as we talked about with how they've been struggling this bottom lane, and getting some of that gold much needed back over in favor of Kramer, because if you're already 2 kills up on JackeyLove, well, Kramer's now got his Kraken Slayer finished. He's getting that seal. You need to get to these 3 items as this Aphelios if you want to be useful in these team fights, so at least making sure that he's still going to be able to pick that up at a relevant point in the game.
369's in trouble, but he hops away from the ult. Nicely done there. And Kramer now moving up to the top side, and this is what we talked about. Kramer will always be in the lane where the most accessible tower exists on the map. So they've taken the bot lane tower. Kramer immediately up towards the top side of the map. The lane swap comes through. Karsa takes a chunk, but he wants to trade it, and the barrel is beautiful. There's a stopwatch to work out. Zhuo happy to take a couple of bonus tower shots, but in comes Quay, and he's got a big old blaster with him. Takes one down onto Karsa. It's a good answer, but I think this Herald might still take the tower. It's going to survive.
It will survive, and a nice turnaround there from Koi. I mean, great play coming in from Karsa to set that up. I love, like, this is why Karsa was famous for his Gragas. This kind of play is why he's so synonymous with this champion. Fantastic to see, even though we haven't seen it out for a little while, he still has those big plays, but mid.
JackeyLove's found himself a 1v1. But let's bear in mind, JackeyLove has a lot of items right now. JackeyLove is not very afraid of Quay. He's just buying space, though, because Kramer is up on the top side of the map. Knight is going to trade for this tower on the bottom side, so it's still 2 for 2 on towers. And I have to say, Dagda, coming into this series, I was expecting this to be very one-sided. When we look at these rosters, when we look at what the expectations are for these teams, it's very heavily in favor of top esports, but LGD are trading pretty effectively around the map as Kramer takes a tower shot for his trouble there. Maybe a little overzealous from him.
And look, there is still a 3,000 gold lead in favor of top, as you're saying. I mean, look, that's still substantial. However, this is what we were talking about with LGD, is that, you know, like their top mid and jungle were able to hold their own pretty well against some of our top teams. Now, obviously, you can see Colt has been struggling. It's not the most favorable matchup that we already discussed for him, but certainly they're no shove. So for LGD, now that they've got their bot lane sorted, seem to be doing okay, but mid lane.
Yeah, this is the problem with Zoe, right? You have no mobility. When Zhuo flies over the wall as a giant metal horse and knocks you into the sky, there's very little you can do about it. And obviously, we talked about this duo with Samira's passive coming up strong as well. Realistically, there are no outs for Uniboy, especially when his flash is down.
Yeah, and these are the kind of plays that top esports need to keep making. They need to keep this game accelerating. Because, yes, you have JackeyLove who has just picked up his collector, very strong right now. But Aphelios is also on 2 items. You've got an Ornn. You've got this scaling that is still coming in on this LGD squads. But when Uniboy pushes up too far, you can see top esports are like just sharks the instant they smell blood, just jumping on top of them, getting those kills, and now buying a little bit more breathing room for them to move in, get this deep vision control, start to look at rounding up these dragons as well. Their third one potentially underway in just under 4 minutes even.
And now top esports want to steal even more away, as going to be able to grab themselves blue buff here. Gold difference between the AD carries right now is about 1,500, but importantly, 2 items have been completed on both AD carries, and When Kramer gets towards that 3-item mark, that's when you really expect the Aphelios to come into its own. He's got the Kraken Slayer into Hurricane this game. We have seen a little bit of Gale Force on Aphelios as well, but the Kraken Slayer generally the more consistent when it comes to scaling up and being that hyper carry that we know Aphelios to be.
And I mean, you've got a lot of help here as well, especially when you look at like the likes of Uniboy with that long range Zoe being able to soften up top esports. And although you do have, you know, Syndra who can provide some long range engage, it's not as consistent as this Zoe. So you do very much as top esports feel a little bit of pressure when you come into these fights, especially from Zhuo and 369, potentially karsa as well, to find these engages, set them up so that then LGD aren't able to poke and prod and look to use Cult as this big beefcake in the front to take position against top esports.
Yeah, the one concern I have about that strategy from LGD of trying to poke their way in, use Cult as the primary engage, Cult really isn't very tanky right now. He's fallen pretty significantly behind 369. That's a 50 CS deficit in the top side. He has one item for himself. Uniboy's searching for picks, but JackeyLove can spin around, so he's going to be okay. It does start to get a little dicey when your big tank ain't that tanky. Karsa's been hooked, though, and dashes out of the fight, taken off of the map here. Zhuo now left out of sorts, and him and Knight are going to pair up on the top side as JackeyLove dashes away through the river. TP channeled from Cult, and they want to keep this fight going. That is a trouble bubble and a half, and it spells absolute disaster for top, but maybe not, because Uniboy doesn't quite connect the paddle star. And despite this teleport in from Cult, LGD can't actually find an extension on the fight. They're going to go for the blue buff. Quake gets it and gets the lantern out of there. At least they'll find this mid tower.
Yeah, LGD needed to turn this into something because you didn't get the TP blown by 369, so he's still chipping away at that inside tower. So yes, you get the pick for LGD, but if this top lane turret goes down, I'd nearly argue that's only the most favorable for top esports in just the pressure now that 369 has in the side lane and the TP advantage top esports can use towards this Baron.
This is very greedy from 369 now. He's been here a long time. Flashes from the Ram knockup. He wants a 2v1 at this point. 369. That is terrifying. He doesn't even have a kill this game, and he's confident enough to just walk up and go, come on then, 2v1, bring it on.
Yeah, we mentioned already just the split push power that this Gnar can have against an Ornn, and even though he doesn't go towards something like the Stride Breaker build where you're able to chase them down, that Divine Sunder still packs a punch and makes that trading very difficult for the Ornn. However, you can see here in this team fight, very nice job from Chance with that hook, shuts down karsa. Karsa has gone for that Nightbringer, so not going towards something that makes him a little bit tankier or even gives him that mobility like we're talking about with the Rocket Belt. So he is capable of getting picked off. LGD do a great job of noticing that.
And those picks are exactly what LGD needs to try and find their way back into this game, as the gold lead still 4,500 in favor of top esports, who are posturing now for this Drake that's coming up in about a second. Can LGD even fight for this?
The big thing here is that LGD burnt, or at least burnt the flashes on both 369 and karsa. So and also Zhuo. So some of these big engage tools that top esports would like to use to start these fights off aren't quite there. However, it looks like what we talked about earlier is that LGD, they just want to get towards these 3 items. They want to get the level 14 on this Ornn so they can hit those scaling items, and they're not willing to fight for the 3rd dragon.
So Drake goes down, and that is now Infernal Soul point for top esports. Now we're getting to the stage where, regardless of scaling, nice cleanse there on the trouble bubble, so Knight walks away. Regardless of scaling, if top esports get a third Infernal Drake to finish off their Infernal Soul, I don't think an Aphelios can save you at that point. I don't think you can outscale the Infernal Soul, and we will get to a stage where, realistically, LGD have to just look for a miracle fight. Maybe that's in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
I like the way top esports, though, have kind of set themselves up for this big front-to-back style team fight. When you look at, rather than the Luden's Tempest, the Andrew's Anguish on towards Knight, who's forced to flash away here, nearly getting caught out.
Can we just mention for a second, Uniboy has, like, not missed a single bubble all game. Every single time this guy presses E, somebody gets slept and it burns a flash on the side of top esports.
But people seem like still surprised. Uniboy looked unreal at Worlds. Uniboy looked so damn clean. And now we've got him coming over to the LPL. We still have Koi who's willing to play towards him like River did. Uniboy's still going to look real damn clean. And especially on picks like Zoe, which were his bread and butter back in the LMS. Like, this is exactly what you expect from this guy. And I'm glad to see it coming in onto LGD's side. And specifically, burning more of these summoner spells. Getting these off of Knight. So now Knight's a little bit... got to be a little bit more careful about where he positions in these fights, especially from like Ornn ultimates and everything else swinging his way. It also buys a little bit more space for Kramer because he doesn't have to worry about Knight flashing in aggressively. Like, this is all working really well in setting up LGD for these later game fights.
Now, I want to quickly mention some stats as we are seeing some posturing and potentially a team fight in the next couple of minutes here, Dagda. And that's that Top Esports, even though... I don't have time right now because we've got a bubble coming in on towards the Rell. Doesn't quite have the damage to finish it off. Rell, incredibly tanky. She is literally made of armor, so does make sense. And she will walk away with her life. Now, Top Esports stats, they're very far ahead at the 15-minute mark on average, but they're losing games, Dagda. That means they are throwing these leads. We have to be careful that they don't do that exactly here against LGD.
And that was a big throw coming through from Top Esports there. I mean, look at the bottom side. 369 is putting pressure onto her tower. Give him space. Just give him time. You can back right the way off of LGD into River and still keep pressure on Baron and give space for 369. Instead, they try to go over aggressive, try to get these deep wards that aren't really necessary right now and give the opportunity for a pick for LGD. It means 369's got to back away. And now you're starting to slowly give time again towards LGD where they're getting this third item on Aphelios. Like, in 2 minutes for this dragon, Aphelios will have 3 items. He's going to be good and good to go. You've got the collector finish for Graves. You've now got some of these tank items coming into Cult, so he can actually be that front line. Like, this is now dangerous, dangerous territory for Top Esports. They don't just win a fight right now.
Unless they can pull off this giant combo with the Rell and the Gnar. If Zhuo and 369 can go in together, that's where the miracles can really happen for Top Esports. And let's bear in mind, they are still very much ahead right now. 5,000 gold ahead. Infernal Soul coming up in a minute and a half. That would be the big ticket for Top Esports. But as you rightly say, LGD scaling starting to come online with those 3 items.
And it's however falling as well. Like, you're getting these Ornn items coming through, which are the big ones. So that gold lead, that 5,000 gold lead, isn't quite as big as it seems.
So here we go. Posturing in the river here. And I want to mention one of the issues Top Esports has had that has led them to the defeats that they've found. We did this in one of our previous A blocks, is that 369 and Zhuo so far haven't had the best synergy. So far, these engages have been a bit discoordinated. That's exactly what these two are, the guys that have to be coordinated in the engages for this composition. The stun comes out, though, and they find themselves the fight. Zhuo goes in, and this will be an easy kill onto Chance for the double. For JackeyLove, they've got a ticket to the mid lane. They can go to the Drake. They can go wherever they want as Uniboy is forced away from the play. In fact, why not a Baron?
And this is what I was going to say is, you know, when 369 and Zhuo haven't been engaging, they've been relying on these long-range mages from Knight. This is exactly what Knight does. Every single time, gets that Syndra stun at the perfect moment to pull the game back in favor of Top Esports. They find the double pick, they will get the Baron off of it, and suddenly this game is in favor of Top Esports. They can even move over towards this dragon as well. Like, they've got all the time in the world here.
And let's just remind everyone at home, Knight, last year, 91% win rate on the Syndra, but no time to talk about that because Cult has teleported in and they want to contest this Drake. LGD know that this would be the end of the game. 369 takes a massive chunk there. As Cult is going to start this dragon off. Bear in mind, Karsa is here. He has Smite. Quay is arriving as well, but Karsa, 1 level up right now, burning through the dragon. They're just going to be able to take this one. Nicely done by LGD, but can they get away with it? Because 369 charging on up, trying to get into this fray, but he's not Mega Gnar just yet. Chance going to use the box to try and disengage from this one as 369 flayed away from the skirmish. He's turning into Mega Gnar. Can he find the ultimate for himself? He's hooked on up, turns into Mega, but has to just back away from this one. Ornn coming through from Cult as he gets onto the Lantern Express and manages to escape.
Nice job coming in from LGD there. They're reading the fact that Top Esports have burnt a lot of those earlier ultimates. Like, Karsa was still waiting on the cast to come up. You were still waiting on the magnetism to come up for Zhuo as well on this Rell. So they quickly take the dragon, back off, say we don't want anything to do with this. It's an in and out and it's a steal for LGD. But this is why Knight has such a high win rate on Syndra. He finds such creative picks. Now, again, LGD, I don't know what you're doing there. Probably shouldn't be in this area. When you're trying to contest like this, definitely need the likes of Cult there to be that front line and absorb this. But still, this is the beauty of Knight and his ability to find these picks.
So now up towards the top side, let's bear in mind, top esports, they did still get the Baron. Even though LGD, like, you got to give them credit for this. That was straight up daylight robbery, to be honest, to get that Drake. But Kramer, oh, Farmer Kramer, you don't get to just tend your fields at this point in the game. Knock back onto chance as well. JackeyLove gets his 19th double of the game, but he wants a little bit more as he grabs the triple. Uniboy, desperate to survive this one, jumps in, but he's just going to get stunned up and annihilated by Knight. Up towards the top side they go, because they are top esports after all. And Dagda, I think this might be game.
This is definitely game. Just like that. 1 pick, 2 pick, 3 pick, no more for LGD, as top esports are going to just close it out. A nice one to start off our series.
They've picked LGD apart like a kid picks apart a chicken leg at a birthday party. On towards the Nexus Tower as they go. And what a commanding performance from this squad. We said we needed them to step up. They are 1 and 2 in the standings, but they want to even that score line up. The Nexus will fall, and top esports take game 1.
And a confident win from top esports. Even though we are talking about, hey, look, LGD have got the scaling that can potentially come through, top esports played heavily around the spot side, got their win condition in this Samira up and rolling, and then when we got to the mid game, finding these picks, finding these dragons, it really just felt like LGD were holding on by anything that they could possibly get a hold to, but it just wasn't enough.
Yep, so far it wasn't enough for LGD, and again, we talked about the way that this team wants to play through the top side, right? Well, Ornn doesn't really allow you to do that. And while in the jungle, we did actually see LGD finding themselves some advantages in that, obviously, Quay himself was individually very far ahead of karsa, because karsa had a bunch of assists, but Quay was like 50, 60 CS up towards the end of the game. But it doesn't matter, because you never got to do that front-to-back team fight that we were looking for. They never got to actually set up around these objectives and use and defend that Aphelios. The Aphelios was the key to everything, but they never had the door to unlock.
And that's why when I look at this game, karsa is my MVP, because it felt like in the early game, karsa was everywhere. He went up towards that top side. We talked about how they set Cole behind, because you have Gragas in the area to allow this Gnar to start chipping away at both the tower and also Colt's health bar. Then he instantly gets down towards this bottom lane, picks up the double kill for the Samira. He's finding these picks in the mid game that allows them to get that mid lane tower as well. Like, karsa's influence over this early game was absolutely insane, and it just meant that there was nothing that you could do on the side of LGD. You had a losing bot, losing top, which top esports just exploited beautifully.
You can see here, 369 actually surprisingly topping the damage chart, which I guess he's playing Gnar versus Ornn, so he's just throwing a whole lot of boomerangs during that laning phase. But yeah, definitely agree that karsa deserving of an MVP on this one. I think he played beautifully, and it was on such a classic pick as well. Getting to see karsa playing Gragas once again, it fills me with all like that warm fuzzy feeling, that nostalgia of olden times of karsa having that influence on this pick back in the past. So this was a feel-good win for top esports fans.
100%. It definitely felt very top esports-esque, and especially when you're seeing JackeyLove on these champions where he's able to just go ham. Like, again, JackeyLove special. You've got Knight on the Syndra, 91% win rate from last split. You've got 369 on the lane bully of the top lane. Like, this is back to basics for top esports, and what we said we liked seeing from them in their series against ORA. Now we're again seeing it here in this series, and this has just been, it's been a bit of a comfort, as you said, just because I was starting to really get worried about top esports and what they were going to be capable of doing coming into spring. And maybe we had to wait until after Chinese New Year to really get the essence of top esports. But it looks like all they needed was just a week or two to get their bearings after Worlds.
Yeah, maybe they just needed a couple of warm-up games for themselves, because it feels like they are well and truly heating up at this stage. We're